Ever since I first saw a video of the giant Kodiak bears fishing in a waterfall, I wanted to go there and see it for myself. I wasn't exactly sure where it was happening or how to get there. Welcome to Walt's Wanderings, where in each episode I will take you along as I explore the world. In this episode, we're going to Katmai National Park in Alaska to watch grizzly bears catch fish in a waterfall. I knew those bears in the waterfall were in Alaska, and I would research how to make this adventure happen while I was in the 49th state for the summer of 2024. There are a few locations where this occurs, but the main place is Brooks Falls in Katmai National Park. The only way to get to that national park is by boat or plane, either which is very expensive. It was $1,350 for the day's round-trip flight. Staying in the simple accommodations at Brooks Camp near the falls is even more expensive, over $2,000 a night, with a minimum stay of a few nights. And there are only 16 cabins, so even at that price, there's a lottery to book rooms each year. In the waiting room at the airport, there was a TV with a live feed of the bear cam from Brooks Falls. One large bear was already feeding at 7 in the morning. For the flight, we were divided into two groups for the two planes based on weight and wanting to keep groups together who had come together. We boarded the first plane to fly to an airstrip where we were supposed to switch to a float plane for the next leg of the journey. While we were in the air, the pilot got word that we would have to divert to another airstrip because of weather. They had warned us that low clouds can obscure landing areas and we may have to wait for the fog to lift. We landed at a fishing camp that provided us with free coffee, hot chocolate, and snacks. The staff kept checking the weather and it was expected to clear up by 11 a.m. or so. In the meantime, we saw a few bears off in the distance and watched them. For most people, this was their first time seeing a grizzly in the wild. I felt fortunate that I had seen so many grizzlies in Grand Teton, Denali, and Glacier National Parks, as well as other places. Maybe I was too close sometimes and got some closer photos than the ones we were able to get here in Alaska. There were lots of dead fish strewn about. At this time of year, the salmon are so plentiful that some bears only eat the best parts, the eggs and the brain and the other fatty parts, and leave the rest. Smaller, less aggressive bears and other animals will feed on the remains. We finally got word that we could take off, but would have to fly around the fog bank, so it would be a 40-minute flight to Brooks Camp instead of a 20-minute flight. That was fine with me. We were flying over some interesting terrain that I had never seen before, and I had never been in a float plane before. At one point, the plane was somehow casting a rainbow on the ground, and I managed to get a photo of the plane's shadow in the circular rainbow. I also got some other interesting photo of the plane casting a shadow on the land. After we landed on the water, our first stop was to attend a 20-minute bear safety class taught by a volunteer ranger. Because of the large number of grizzlies around the camp and the falls, no one is allowed to proceed without taking this class. Most of it was a refresher on what I had learned in my hours-long bear training in Denali National Park. But a few protocols were definitely different here. For one thing, only the rangers are allowed to carry bear spray. In fact, you can't even bring it on the planes. And here they let people get much closer to the bears than they allow in Denali because the bears here are so used to humans and the bears are so focused on eating fish that unless the humans get close enough to be perceived a threat, the bears tend to ignore those weird skinny things wandering around with cameras and phones. In class, we learned that in some areas, including the picnic area in camp, they have electric fences to protect the people. We were told to be sure to close all gates and latch them to keep bears out of the safe areas and the viewing platforms. We were shown a bear pelt and told it came from the last bear they had to put down because of unfortunate interactions with humans. That was 40 years ago, and they didn't want to repeat, hence the bear awareness classes. I later asked when the last fatal bear attack on a human was, and they said, disregarding Timothy Treadwell, no one has been killed by a bear in the park since the park was created in 1980. I didn't realize that the Treadwell story had taken place in Katmai, but it's a large park, and that story took place a long ways from where we were. Google Treadwell or the movie Grizzly Man if you're not familiar with his bizarre story. I guess we were supposed to wear the pin as proof that we had graduated from bear class and we were now free to roam about, but we were worried about losing our pins, so I think we all pocketed them for safekeeping rather than actually wear them as we walked around the area. Bears being startled or surprised by people walking through the turf, which their turf includes the walking path to the viewing platforms, have been known to take swipes at people, sometimes deep enough to draw blood, but nothing too serious. We crossed the wooden bridge without seeing any bears, so continued on to the next viewing platform. We passed through another covered walkway that is a holding area, but we didn't have to hold. The crowds thin out a lot in September, which is when I was there, but from May until the beginning of September, there were so many people wanting to see the bears in the waterfall that on the main viewing platform, a time limit of 20 minutes is set until everyone who has been waiting their turn gets their chance, then guests may return. Because it was no longer peak season, there was no waiting and we could spend as long as we wanted on the viewing platforms. When we arrived at the main platform, there was only one bear in the falls. His name, we learned, was Chunk. The rangers refer to the bears by their numbers, but the online public gives them nicknames. Chunk's name is because he is so chunky and because he has a chunk out of his nose. Notice the scar in this photo. There are people whose hobby it is to watch the bears on bear cam and count the fish each bear catches and monitor the other behaviors of the bears. Strangely, Chunk has never learned to fish from the waterfall or in the pool just under the platform, which was full of fish. According to the rangers, the bears only seem to be able to fish the way their mothers taught them. Apparently, there is a sow who brings her 2 cubs to the pool and they feast on the fish hanging out in this shallow area, and we saw many fish down there, but Chunk never made an effort to even look there. I was told another sow and her 2 female cubs efficiently worked the waterfall close to the viewing platform, and I snapped photos of several fish midair as they leaped up the falls, and even got a shot of Chunk looking on in frustration as those fish jumped with impunity as he stood helpless to do anything about it. Sadly, we saw very few bears because no other bears will approach any part of the waterfall while Chunk is there. Like this bear was trying to fish downriver where the fishing was not very good. But the rest of the bears are afraid of Chunk, and so he had been alone in the waterfall since at least 7 a.m., over 8 hours, and much of the time he was not even able to catch fish. The ranger said the bears need to eat about 90 pounds of fish a day, and he had only had 5 in the few hours we watched him. But of course, one of these salmon can weigh 20 pounds, so maybe he's doing all right if he was averaging 3 fish an hour and it was putting in a 16-hour workday. But Chunk is really not very good at his job. He only catches fish as they get caught in the backwash at the base of the falls. He can't pluck them out of the falls like I've seen other bears do on videos. He also, for some reason, can't catch fish out of the pool, which to me at least seems a lot easier than trying to catch fish as they get churned around in the washing machine at the bottom of the falls. In some of my photos and videos, it looks as though Chunk is having difficulty, often pouncing on fish that have moved, or as though Chunk is looking forlornly in the waterfall froth for signs of red, but often he looked completely lost as he thrashed around the river. Chunk, and I understand this is true of most bears, likes his prey alive, so he would start by taking non-fatal bites as the fish thrashed and squirmed and ate the head last. Chunk is not the biggest bear in the falls, although he did make it to the top 10 as a finalist in the annual Fat Bear contest that the National Park Service posts online, but he somehow manages to intimidate the other bears from coming anywhere near the falls when he is there. After my new friend Nina and I decided to go see what was happening on the bridge, some of our other playmates saw another bear come to the waterfall, and Chunk immediately confronted that bear and chased them off. Sue, the other playmate, shared a video of the encounter. While we were watching Chunk, another bear crossed upstream, and I got a few photos of him. While we were missing the action with Chunk, we saw another bear cross upstream, and I got a few photos and videos of him. But I also missed it later when some of my playmates got photos and videos of that bear chasing away some fishermen who got too close for his liking. Meanwhile, back at the bridge, we had just missed a cub who, apparently unable to catch fish, was eating the leftovers that older bears had caught and discarded. Sue also was nice enough to share a video of that cub. So with bad timing, Nina and I had missed the excitement at both ends of the walk. I was not disappointed in the trip, even with the massive expense, until I learned that I had missed so much excitement, including the frightening encounter with the other bear when he dared to challenge Chunk, albeit briefly. Have you ever seen a grizzly in the wild? What's your favorite national park? Let me know in the comments below. Please like and subscribe. Next on Walt's Wanderings, we'll visit Plovdiv, Bulgaria, and among other sites, see a 2,500-year-old amphitheater that is still in good enough shape to host rock concerts. Come along for the adventure, won't you? Stay tuned and follow or subscribe with the links below.